2025 did not give us a single day off from the news. So today on CityCast Las Vegas, we're going to cover what we know about the Cybertruck explosion outside the Trump International Hotel, Governor Lombardo's ongoing feud with the Clark County School District, and round up the new developments coming to downtown and the Strip. It's Friday, January 3rd. I'm Sarah Lohman, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Hello, Dayvid. Hello, Rob.
Hey, and Happy New Year's to everyone, including all the new people who are coming to CityCast for the first time.
How lovely. We've got a doozy for you, and I'm sure you all know what our hot headline is this week.
Hot headline!
Hot headline!
The year is starting off with an explosive news story.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big and scary one, and certainly sort of an ominous tiding for the new year. A Cybertruck exploded outside of the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas on Wednesday morning, killing the driver, and at least 7 others were injured. Sheriff McMahill said the authorities had found gas canisters, fuel canisters, and large firework mortars in the back of the truck, although it was unclear how they had been ignited. As of Wednesday afternoon, there was no indication that the explosion was connected to ISIS, which President Biden said inspired the New Orleans attack. And since Cybertrucks have previously caught on fire of their own volition, Elon Musk, Tesla's chief executive, got on X to say that the explosion was caused by very large fireworks and or a bomb carried in the bed of a rented Cybertruck, and that the vehicle was functioning properly. So good thing he got on there to tell us that. Rob, what do we know about the driver of the vehicle?
So the driver is Matthew Livelsberger. That's his name. And this is a guy who was in the Army. He was a Green Beret. So he's gone from being somebody who worked in counterterrorism to someone who's now suspected of terrorism, although the investigation is still pending. We're still trying to find out if this was something accidental, but based on what was inside the car, it's not quite looking that way. But he was a member of the Army's elite Green Berets, which is a special forces unit, and they're guerrilla warfare experts. And this is confirmed by the Army via a statement to the Associated Press. He had served in the Army since 2006, rose through the ranks, and was on approved leave when he died. Now, some people are thinking he rented this Cybertruck from Turo in Las Vegas. He actually rented it in his home state of Colorado Springs specifically, and drove it to Las Vegas. And there's actually information about him driving this up and down the Strip before actually pulling the Cybertruck into the valet area at Trump International. And as we all know, all parking goes through valet pretty much there. There's no self-parking or anything like that.
So Turo is basically an app where you can rent people. It's kind of like Airbnb for cars. You can rent someone's private vehicle essentially, and they will drive it to you. Which, and interestingly, it was also used in the attack in NOLA as well, the same rental system.
We should point out that the suspect in the New Orleans attack, which is very clearly, at least in my mind, an act of terrorism because it looked very intentional, that person has an Army background as well. And both him and Livelsberger had been at Fort Bragg in the past, but there's no evidence of overlap or that they knew each other or that these are related yet. It's all a pending investigation.
Yeah, so of course, this is still very much a developing story. There was a news conference Thursday morning. Sheriff McMahill shared that Livelsberger had a gunshot wound to his head. That was done prior to the explosion. It's believed the wound was self-inflicted. There were also 2 guns found inside the vehicle. And so far, we've also heard that Metro will have an increased presence in the area as a response. Dayvid, you've been here the longest. You've seen the most out of the 3 of us. How does Las Vegas usually respond to potential acts of terrorism like this or other security threats?
Well, there's always a quick response. It starts with the press conference. We're looking at all these things, and then you just sort of see measures arise in those areas. There's probably going to be some sort of, reactive thing to not get so close to the front area of a hotel. As a response. In the past, people have driven up on the Strip, and so bollards come in. Same thing with Fremont Street. That happened years and years ago, and now you see right on Vegas Boulevard getting to Fremont, so people can't drive down that and obviously cause huge damage. There's these huge posts, which are called bollards. And, security measures after 1 October, there was more like scanning devices at the front of hotels to see if people might be carrying weapons in. I mean, there's all sorts of surveillance and technological advancements that can be implemented. Sadly, it's always going to be reactive because we don't want to live in a police state. But by the same token, we don't want a repeat of things that do happen. So I think it's always for many communities, but, Las Vegas especially, being sensitive to bad press, making tourists not want to come here because of safety issues. They do have to do these kind of measures, but, that's pretty much it. I mean, this was pretty spectacular. This could have caused way more damage if it had been, obviously, on New Year's Eve, even in the ancillary areas, because the Strip is pretty much, you can't get on it on New Year's Eve. But I think that the Trump International Hotel might have been accessible during New Year's Eve.
Yeah, it was.
Either way, you might see an expansion of the barrier of how close you can get to the Strip on big event days like a New Year's Eve. We'll just have to see.
All right, Dayvid, we're actually going to come to you for our next topic. So over the past year, we've really seen Governor Lombardo locked in this battle with the Clark County School District. Do you think that's going to continue to 2025?
Well, not just Governor Lombardo, Sarah, but it's also been the Nevada legislature. Everyone seems to be upset with the way that the school district was operating over the year. And I think part of that was how the school board of trustees was operating as well. And let's not forget, this year had the entire big controversy of the superintendent, Jesus Jara. Will he stay? Will he go? Eventually, it was he goes. And so the interim superintendent, Brenda Larson Mitchell, has indicated she's taking herself out of the running to be superintendent. There has been some turnover big time in the election. And also the teacher pay raises went through. And that seems to be the source of the biggest part of this whole controversy, other than the operation of the Clark County School District. And let's not forget, the Clark County School District has long been a source of dismay for pretty much everyone in the community and the elected officials because of the performance data. It has been consistently low, so low that it is in the bottom of the country. And so back in fall, Governor Lombardo basically did the first salvo. But also during the prior year, the leadership of the state assembly and the state senate were also sending these missives out against Jara, saying he needed to go and that they needed to reform, and also that the legislature was going to reform them. So that is shaping up to be a big showdown as the legislative session of 2025 is about to get underway.
So, Rob, the governor is mandating corrective action for budget issues within CCSD. Why would the school district be opposed to that?
I think it's one of those things where you just have an issue of accountability and nobody steering the ship. I mean, we've gone almost a year without a superintendent. The search doesn't seem anywhere close to being finished. I think the deadline is still yet to come to apply. So we're kind of seeing this standoff where the governor's getting a little more involved. And now we also have the question of undocumented immigrants in the Clark County School District. And Governor Lombardo has already promised to carry out the immigration policies of the incoming Trump administration, prompting the school district to make a statement that's not a new policy, but a policy they already had, reinforcing that the schools are safe places for all students and all families. They don't ask about immigration status, and they don't tell about it either if they do. So this is shaping up to be one of several standoffs between the governor and the Clark County School District.
Dayvid, we're coming into a new legislative session within the next year, which is also something we'll be covering in the coming months here on CityCast. Are there any proposed bills coming into this year's legislative session that play into this, or where the governor and the school district officials are on opposing sides?
Sarah, it's to be seen. Certainly, this past year has provided a framework of a lot of tension between the legislative leadership of the Democratic Party and Governor Lombardo, who is a Republican. They've been fighting about a lot of things. There were a lot of battles surrounding the election cycle that show that they're not really getting along well. And while the governor has made it very clear, I mean, he ran in 2023 as the quote-unquote education governor, that he wants to fix it by his own means. The first to come out is Nicole Cannizzaro, the Senate Majority Leader, with a sweeping proposal talking about, additional reporting requirements and things of that nature. but also giving the appointed Clark County School Board trustees voting rights and messing around with the voucher systems and the qualifications for superintendents and chief financial officers. Also, universal pre-K was thrown in there, which is not something that Lombardo has really been interested in. Educator raises and initiatives, education accountability, as I mentioned, and opportunity scholarship discussions that, Nicole Cannizzaro, when she came out with this big sweeping bill, also indicated to Nevada Independent that she had not consulted with the governor's office. And so I think that there's plenty of areas in that bill that the governor will probably disagree with. And so it'll be really interesting to see, given the tone of everyone's hate directed at the school board and the trustees, how they can work out a compromise that, after all, will be best for the children of Clark County, which should be everyone's goal, not the political garbage.
Well, as everything develops, we're going to continue to follow it here on CityCast, and we will see what happens with that superintendent search that is also going to happen this year, too. All right. In other news, downtown could potentially look very, very different in 2025. Rob, what's going on down in the Arts District?
Well, as we know, the Arts District has gone from a community, a neighborhood that was built around art, was built around community, has become a business hub. It's a place full of beer places, bars, restaurants, shops, and it's really the hottest neighborhood in Las Vegas right now.
Woohoo!
It's David's neighborhood.
I'm hot now, Rob. I'm hot.
Well, I hope you're excited because you're going to get a few more neighbors in the new year. It's really starting to become a residential hub where it wasn't quite that before. We have the Southern Land Company building a new residential building as we speak on 3rd Street, which is sort of a somewhat underused corner of the Arts District. It's kind of on the eastern part of the neighborhood. Southern Land Company is also building 2 new residential buildings in Symphony Park, which you could almost think of as the northern cap of the Arts District. They're building Bria, which is a 5-story mid-rise, and Capella, which is a 22-story high-rise, kind of a mixed-use project. And if you remember our CityCast interview with Mayor Goodman, she is all about Symphony Park. This is what she sees as the next transition of downtown, the future, and sort of like the next hot community. And you can see it with all the development there. We also have Midtown, which is right by the English Hotel and is going to expand that area. So all these residential areas are kind of merging together, and we're seeing a lot more activity in that department. Midtown, I don't believe, has started any construction yet. It's been a little bit quiet, but the developer likes to work fast. She built the English Hotel and is very excited. They're already taking deposits for Midtown, and that's promising to reshape that area dramatically.
So, Rob, how is this going to affect all of us Las Vegans, not just people who live downtown? Is it going to make a dent in the housing issue? Is there going to be more traffic? Do you see larger ramifications from this?
Yeah, I mean, as we know, everyone's kind of aiming for luxury. So will these be affordable? Depends on who you ask. Of course, we're going to get a lot more traffic and construction, which we can't get enough of in Las Vegas these days, of course. But Weena Zhang, the developer of Midtown, does want to make things relatively affordable with some of her units. For working class people who work in the hospitality industry, these are sort of tailor-made for them. So when this development opens, we'll kind of see more of that.
David, how do you think it's going to change your lifestyle in your neighborhood?
That's a great question. I don't know. First of all, I want to say this, that the Arts District as a formal designation is much smaller than all the people who claim to be part of the Arts District.
Definitely.
I mean, heck, during Life is Beautiful Junior, or whatever they called it last year, they said that the Plaza Hotel was in the Arts District, which, God bless.
Not.
God bless.
The Arts District is basically getting pulled into different directions. Everyone kind of wants a piece of it and wants to expand those borders.
And as Rob said, arts aren't really a part of it like, it was organically 20 years ago when there were a lot of artists living in the area and a lot of galleries that could afford the rent that can't afford the rent anymore, much more so than exists right now. The housing is not going to be affordable, Rob. I mean, it is not by any standard of imagination. My fear, though, is that it's going to be investment properties for a lot of people. And I'd much rather have new neighbors, whatever their economic background will be, who are invested in the area. Downtown core is an important part of any city's development plan. I also am a little worried that there's not been a lot of planning going into it. So we're just kind of getting all this really cool stuff, but we haven't really figured out how to make the most of it. One thing, though, that has really impressed me is that this area has proved to be the most walkable area in maybe all of Las Vegas. I mean, I walk from my little abode over to the Arts District or even into the more downtown core areas on a regular basis. And I like that, although sometimes it's a little treacherous with the traffic stuff, and I wish that would kind of catch up. So I think maybe the one thing with all this new development and all these new people moving down here and all these new places to go to eat or to buy stuff or whatever, is that it might impress upon this friggin' city that we need to stop building parking garages and roads that are so big and wide and think more about spaces where people can safely walk and bicycle.
Love walkability.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of synergy in the lifestyle. I mean, it's kind
Yeah.
of that classic, almost like European lifestyle where, instead of buying a bunch of groceries for the week, maybe you go and you have dinner at a restaurant that's right next to your high rise or your mid rise.
Mixed use living, yeah.
Yeah.
The mixed use living. Maybe you pick up your groceries just for what you need for dinner tonight, and then you get a few more at a farmer's market the next day.
With so many cool options, Sarah, we do have to remind ourselves in our household that we need to cook for ourselves, that it's way more economical and probably better for us lifestyle-wise. But there's so many temptations to we'll just walk on over to Main Street Provisions, or we'll go over to just grab a drink at Esther's when, God bless all the places I could buy a bottle and live off of that for a couple of weeks of drinking.
Is this your New Year's resolution, Dayvid, to cook at home more?
Well, that's always the resolution. Actually, it's more to not succumb to temptations of the great places that are popping up around us. And there's new places all the time. I mean, Jiminy, it's gotten to the point where it's gotten to the point where almost every 2 weeks there's another big opening of another splashy place. It's kind of awesome.
Okay, let's talk about this though. So there's a lot developing downtown. There are new bars and restaurants opening every month, every week, but we don't see a lot of action on Fremont.
Yeah, it's kind of stalled.
Oh, we see action, just kind of not the kind that everyone really
not development, for sure.
Yeah.
It's like Tony Hsieh came in and, for the criticism of him and for the tragic way that his life ended as well, he did create change in that space and create a vision for that space. But it seems like that vision is happening everywhere else downtown except for Fremont Street.
Yeah.
So do we see any future for development on Fremont? What's happening?
I mean, that's a big question mark because, as you said, the Arts District really is sort of Tony Hsieh's vision come to life, but elsewhere instead of Fremont East, where Hsieh bought up properties, had a lot of vision for that area and had a lot of control of that area, which may have kind of shot himself in the foot a little bit as far as development there. Because instead, we're seeing it happen more organically in the Arts District and other areas nearby, like Symphony Park. And the city has really gotten behind that. I don't know if they really got behind Fremont East in the same way because Tony Hsieh had so much control. And now it's kind of has this stalled out kind of feeling.
Yeah, there was a lot of acquiescing to his fanciful ideas that weren't you could call them a vision, but it was more of a mishmash in a lot of ways. And there were pros and cons all over the place. But what we're seeing right now is until his family, because he died without a will. So that made things very confusing and a lot of litigation.
Is the property still locked in his estate?
Oh, yeah. Tons of it.
Okay, so that's part of the stall out here.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely locked up. And the family doesn't seem to have much interest in being gracious and kind and helping along the process to make that area vibrant. I think they're looking to cash out in the most lucrative way. And then they're also putting this weird string on every property that they're selling that there has to be some tribute to their son, Tony, as part of whatever new project is going to come up, which seems absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it seems like the city kind of took an approach of, well, okay, you handle it. You have this vision.
Yeah.
And now there's no one really to pick it up. And his estate doesn't seem to be doing that as well.
Well, It was doomed from the start.
We do that in America. We just pass things off to the millionaires and billionaires and say,
Yeah.
they'll take care of it. And of course, as a historian, it does pain me to see. I love the hope of being able to save and reuse those spaces, those historical hotel spaces, like Ferguson's is such a brilliant use of that space. And now to see them decaying it's really disappointing. I wish we could preserve that part of our history, as well as the beautiful architecture and unique signs, which we continue to actively lose.
Save the bunkhouse, Sarah. Save the bunkhouse.
Well, there are big changes coming not only to downtown, but we're also seeing some pretty big construction happening down on the Strip. So the one that really caught my attention is, of course, the Venetian has been doing a huge renovation that includes the opening of a lot of new restaurants. I mentioned the Venice Beach fave, Jelena, in our January roundup, which aired yesterday. That's already open in the Venetian, open on the 26th. Cote, the Korean steakhouse, which was New York-based, is opening soon as well. But Venetian is also getting in on the food hall gang in 2025. They're opening the Via Via Food Hall, and vendors actually include a couple of my favorite New York City spots.
It's a good lineup.
It's a good lineup. I was really surprised when I took a look at it. So probably my favorite, or one of my top New York City slice places, is opening up Scars. And their pizza does a sourdough crust. So the crust really, really adds like a rich, delicious flavor to it. Ivan Ramen is also opening up, and they're famously the Jewish chicken soup meets ramen crossover. Really delicious, savory. It's exactly a description. It's exactly what you'd imagine.
This segment of CityCast has been brought to you by Big Gaming and the restaurants that they love to charge people $1 million to go eat at.
And these are food halls. These are drop-in joints.
I get that.
So it's not so crazy.
Hey, I just want to say I'm glad that BS Taqueria is getting a second life after the Sundry closed. That's a place that deserves more recognition. I loved their tequila selection. Hopefully, it'll show up at the Venetian.
Yeah, the Sundry was your side of town, so I know that you had some experience with them. Any idea what's going to happen with that space? Slight digression?
No, it's a big space. I think the idea is to sort of make it a little more compartmentalized. So nothing's been announced, but I wouldn't be surprised if you saw maybe 2 restaurants take it over instead of one big concept. But the Sundry only lasted a year, and by the time it closed, it was a shell of what it started off as.
Yeah, and it's interesting that failed while the sort of outdoor, walkable, really food hall space succeeded in that area. Another big conversion on the Strip, another big renovation is, the Hawaii Marketplace closed long ago, but now the Boulevard, spelled BLVD, is opening. Their website calls it a high-profile, high-impact, all-day destination on the Strip, offering a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to connect with consumers from across the world.
Marketing!
And the largest In-N-Out burger in history is going to be there soon.
And the largest In-N-Out burger in history, as well as a Puma store, H&M, and Pandora. So it is a mall.
And it's already starting. The Puma store is open. And
are malls back?
Were they ever gone?
I don't know.
On the Strip, anyway.
I can't get past the world's largest In-N-Out just thinking that they'd have giant cups so they could put the entire Bible underneath it as opposed to just one verse that they sneak in on those In-N-Out cups.
I predict they'll still have long lines.
Oh, that's true.
Even when it's the largest one.
Yeah, no matter how big it gets. I love In-N-Out.
There's already an In-N-Out on the Strip. We could have used a Shake Shack, but, whatever. I probably will not be driving to go to the Puma store. So, Dayvid, is there anything that's being built or is coming to Vegas in the next year that you're excited about?
Well, I'm going to just start by saying I'm less excited about proposed projects and actual projects on the Strip. I just let Strip City be Strip City. I get how important it is. I am very interested in some of the other projects, the moving of the Neon Museum, the coming together of the real concept for the art museum, even the friggin' Evel Knievel Museum. These things are really going to get underway in 2025 to show that they're real or not real. And I am excited about that kind of energy and movement. Again, very downtown core focus. I guess I am who I am because I don't like to drive around this city because of the cones. Yeah. I would be excited if that 2025 was going to be the year that the cones would finally go away, but I just feel like
alas.
alas, they're going to continue to multiply and be fruitful like the bunnies that they are.
Yeah, and just to be clear, we're not going to see any of those things come to fruition in 2025, but hopefully we'll see them start in 2025. That might be nice.
Let's meet back around this time in 2028.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even with the stadium, like if the stadium isn't starting like to be built, the A's baseball stadium isn't starting to be built in 2025 on the Tropicana site, at some point, and same thing with the Bright Line. I mean, all the projects that have been talked about for so long, 2025 will be a year to see real deal, or was it more bullshit?
Yeah, I saw one sad sign for the Bright Line in Rancho Cucamonga over break, so we'll see what happens there.
Was there spray paint on it yet?
No, it still looked dystopian. It was just one tiny sign in the desert with like a corner flapping off. So we'll see.
Certain metaphor there.
Yeah. Rob, what about you? What are you excited about in 2025?
I mean, 2025 is a relatively quiet year in Vegas, but you know what?
So far.
The biggest pro wrestling event of the year is coming to Las Vegas. WrestleMania is coming to Allegiant Stadium for 2 days. This used to be a one-day event, but it's coming to Allegiant Stadium for 2 days.
The wrestling on the grass?
WrestleMania.
Wrestling in the ring, April 19th and 20th. And I don't know if you've noticed, pro wrestling has kind of gone through a little bit of a resurgence in recent years. I mean, it kind of goes in cycles anyway, you know, peaks and valleys with popularity. But it's at that moment now where it's always taken place at a stadium. It's now 2 days. They can sell out stadiums with this. And there's a whole new era. There's the current champion is a guy named Cody Rhodes, who's the son of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, who maybe Dayvid might remember.
Oof, ageism on this podcast.
And then you've got Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. You got John Cena, who's promising to retire this year. So this could be his final WrestleMania. But I think the WWE owes Las Vegas one because the last time WrestleMania was here, it was WrestleMania 9. And it's universally looked at as one of the worst WrestleManias ever. It took place in the parking lot at the time of Caesar's Palace. It was kind of like a makeshift stadium outside. The matches all kind of sucked. And Hulk Hogan came in at the end and kind of weaseled his way into an impromptu last-minute championship match that lasted about 10 seconds and took the title, and it wasn't even advertised. And that was the moment when this young Hulkamaniac started to sour on Hulkamania a little bit.
Oh, no.
It didn't quite sit right, you know? Hulk Hogan stole the title from Yokozuna, who had beat Bret the Hitman Hart for it.
Oh, my gosh,
Somebody
here we
got
go.
salt thrown in their eyes. I mean, the WWE owes Vegas a good WrestleMania, and I hope we see it this year.
Rob, have you been to Pride Style Wrestling at Swan Dive yet?
No.
Oh, you'd love it, Rob.
Really?
You'd love
Should we
it.
make a CityCast Las Vegas day
Outing?
out? Yeah,
oh my
an
gosh,
outing.
yes, because contributor Andrew Corrali loves wrestling, and the two of you really need to be talking about it more. I think they do it every month. And it is, I mean, it's absolutely wild. And, you know, it's Swan Dive, so you're up super close and people are knocking over chairs and beating each other with them. And it's everything you love, Rob.
I'm sold. And wrestling's not complete unless a steel chair is involved.
Yeah, there's got to be some folding chairs involved.
Yes.
Absolutely. I'm weirdly looking forward to the fact that it is conference month in Vegas. Like, all of the biggest shows are in this month. We've got CES, we've got the Especially Foodies Association Fancy Food Show, and we have the Adult Entertainment Expo, and we've got AVN, the Adult Video News Awards Ceremony, the who's who of the porn industry. And, you know, we're going to be doing a little shout out to all of them. Like, this is the time of year when the date apps are unusable because everyone's in town for a conference, when there are some wild pop-ups in the city, and where we get a real look ahead at the next year of the world, essentially, with all these sort of like tech, food, and body influencers, perhaps. But I have to say that for me, the happiest thing that's happened this New Year's is a great sign of me being old, and that I did do New Year's on the Strip this year at the Sphere. And as I was leaving the Encore parking garage, the parking garage bar was just up. They were just like, get out. We don't want your money. Just please leave. And I did. And I actually cheered as I drove through the open turnstile without giving them my $20.
And it's those little things you appreciate when you get a little gift back.
I did appreciate it.
Yeah.
Especially over the holidays.
I was really like, yay, I win. All right. Well, Happy New Year. And we'll see what things are to come in 2025. Thanks, Dayvid and Rob.
Cheers.
Looking forward to a year of CityCast podcasts. They're going to be great.
And that's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. Our executive producer, Sonia Cho Swanson. Our producers this week were Layla Muhammad, Myron Kaplan, and Selena Say Reynolds. Our newsletter editor is Rob Kachelriess, and our hosts are Dayvid Figler and Sarah Lohman. That's me. Music is by OG Moose, Epidemic Sound, and all the Kimonos. We record this show in the traditional homelands of the Nuwuvi, the Southern Paiute people. If you enjoyed this show, why not tell a friend? You can rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter, Hey Las Vegas. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Take care.